All right, setting up the meeting. We're going to YouTube. Let's see. Oh, hold on.
I can't see what you're seeing. So
What's that? Setting up the meeting. We're going to YouTube. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna have to mute this. This meeting's being live streamed. Got it. Okay, so it seems like I'm gonna have to keep going back between YouTube and the Zoom meeting because
weird.
Well, if people, actually, I'll just do this. I don't need to see your whole face.
Because it's just so beautiful. How could you resist?
Sure. I'm gonna go ahead and let people know we are live.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, that's the best way to do this. All right.
I mentioned over the weekend I was going to be on your podcast coming up, and a couple of people were like, that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Wait, who'd you tell?
I didn't say when, but Morgan and John Coakley were there, and Pooker.
Okay. And they were just like, oh shit.
They were like, oh. Especially because I was like, I don't know what questions Ollie has received. So buckle up, friends.
All right. So let's see. This is my first time ever fucking doing this.
The learning curve.
Oh yeah, people are gonna see me learning how to do this live. So
I've seen that from even people that have been doing live on YouTube all the time.
Say that again?
I see that on YouTube all the time whenever I watch like recorded lives and I'm watching it after the fact, and then you can see people like commenting and being like, we can't see your face because the text box is covering your face, and you're like, oh, sorry. Learning experience.
Let's see. Okay, so there's one person watching. I don't know I don't know who it is. People just go ahead. Oh, I'm forced to describe this. People like me. Okay. So, I mean, I'm probably going to end up putting this up on YouTube so that people can come back and look at it. Let me do this because it's messing me up, the fact that the Zoom is on a delay. So I'm seeing hands like frail around. It's just like she's not saying anything. No name. Well, whoever no name is, what's up? All right, so I guess let's fucking just start. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Welcome to the first live episode of Toon Talks with the Pharaoh. I'm still trying to decide whether or not this is going to be like, I might call this Tomb Thoughts, because the podcast episodes are probably going to be a little bit more educational, more informational. This one, I'm just going to sit here and just talk my shit. Still informational.
I like it.
I'm just going to talk my shit.
I like it.
I'm joined by my friend here. I don't know if, can you guys? Yeah, you guys can see that. So you know her name, but you can go ahead and introduce yourself, how we know each other.
Yeah, my name is Becky. I've known Ollie for 10 years now, actually. We met first week freshman year at UMass Amherst. It's been 10 years.
It's been a fucking decade.
It's been a decade.
It seems longer.
I'm going to take that as a compliment. I don't know how, but I'm going to.
Sorry, keep going.
No, yeah, we met first week freshman year. We both lived in the same dorm. You were on the floor above me. I think we met my second day, but I think you got there early, so I think it was like your fourth or fifth or something.
Yeah, I got there I think it was about 4 or 5 days early, because I did some nerd shit and I ended up doing like a science camp so that people could get a start for biology and shit like that. I just saw it as a way to move in early.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you were the one, obviously, that introduced me to our group of friends now that we had at UMass. I ended up living with 3 of them for a couple of years. So,
well,
thank you, I guess.
What did Maui say? You're welcome. So if you guys can see this, it's called Not Your Average Becky. So Becky has some questions for me. I got some questions, some statements, feedback from people that have listened to the podcast. So I'm just going to go through some of them. We're just going to chop it up. Don't know how long this is going to be. So, hey, we're here. So I'm going to go through the questions and statements that I got back first, and then you can ask your questions and we'll just go. So the first question I got from someone is, why did you start your podcast and what is your goal? So pretty much started my podcast a little bit because I was bored. Secondly is that I've been unemployed since January. So from there, I just had a lot of free time on my hands, and I was just thinking of something to do to kind of preoccupy my time. And during that time, I was also listening to a lot of podcasts, and with some of the podcasts I was watching, I just didn't really see too many like Black guests. And then when they were on there, they were talking about pretty much kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, how does Black people feel about this? Or, which isn't a problem, but it's always just in a very narrow scope of things. It's like, how do Black people feel about police brutality? It's like, you know how the fuck we feel about police brutality. Come on. So my goal is to pretty much just create a space for Black voices to be heard, show that Black people aren't a monolith, that you can have Black people on who are experts in different things other than just being Black. And then where I kind of took my inspiration from was I kind of wanted to be the Black Joe Rogan. Because he'll have some crazy episodes where it's just like, oh, I never thought I would find this subject interesting. For example, one of my cousins, he listened to the episode about gaming and role playing and things like that. And he said, I never thought I would find it interesting, but having listened to that, it's like, I understand it more and I'm a little bit more like well-rounded. I know more about it. So it's kind of stuff like that. That was pretty much why I started it and my goal with it. So yeah. Let's see. Another question I got was, how many of these episodes are going to talk about race? I don't know. Fuck it. Maybe all of them.
Probably all of them.
It's probably going to have some racial stuff in all of them. Are there all of them going to be heavily focused on race? Probably not. But then again, it is something I would do. I really don't care. It's like I'm trying to make content for things that, first of all, I'm just kind of drawing from people around me, because a lot of the people that I'm surrounded with, they have something to say. And I kind of just want to create a platform for them to voice what they have to say, and also it's like have a place for, like, create a place for them to say it where they're not going to get blowback for it. Because if anybody has a problem with anything that the guests say on my show, they can come talk to me. They don't need to try to track down that person, because this is my platform, my podcast, and I will stand behind anyone's right to say whatever the fuck they want. Hell, if I can find a racist, I'll bring him on.
Honestly, that would be an unreal podcast. I'd love to listen to that.
Get one of the Proud Boys on here.
Someone who's like blatantly racist, and then another person who doesn't think that they're racist. I'm not racist, but
so pretty much like the guy who wrote the UMass email.
Yeah, because didn't he say that in the email?
Yeah, he said, I'm not racist. I just don't think the Negro should be at higher education.
I can't.
I do appreciate it. He took it way back to old school ones, the Negro. Like, oh shit.
I just wanted him to own it. Just own it, man.
Right over colored people, went straight to Negroes. Like, oh, wow.
True.
So for some of the people that might not know, I know that it's starting to circulate around like Instagram and things like that. Do you want to explain to them what happened at your school? No, I don't claim UMass.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know. Do I want to say it's my school? Just kidding. Love UMass Amherst most of the time. Yeah, so Ali forwarded on Instagram to me the other day. I hadn't seen it yet, but somebody sent an email. Was this directly to one particular Black student? Remind me who it was to.
Oh, no, they sent it to all the Black organizations and all the Black students.
Oh, so this was just like a mass email. Okay, I missed that.
Yeah, everyone got it. If you had melanin, you got it.
And it was very long, and kind of went on a rant. And it started with, I'm not racist, but all people at this school who aren't Black, of all races, genders, what have you. So he was speaking for everyone. Mm-hmm. Don't want you here. He made some really bold statements. A lot of people don't know this, but, and I'm air quotes for people that are listening to this. This is not my words. A lot of people don't know this, but
100%
Black people's IQ is 75. Is that the number he?
It's like the average IQ for a Black person is 75, which factually is not true.
Naturally, this rant about again, just how much people didn't want Black people at UMass.
Well, that figure that came from a book called, I believe it's called The Bell Curve, where it was this doctor with the IQ test. It was trying to show it's like, oh, based on the IQ test, they Black people score lower on the IQ test. However, is that people have re-examined the IQ test and has seen that it's more based in your concept of culture than intelligence. So that's where the 75 comes from. And people have there's a good video on YouTube with Dr. Frances Cress Wesley, where she actually sits down and debates with the guy that's trying to argue the fact that Black people's IQ is lower. So I'll send you the link.
Yeah, I want to watch that.
So it's actually pretty good. But keep going. Yes. So Black people are dumb. That's what you said.
My words directly. The part that made me actually almost do a spit take. And you know me, when I get anxious, I almost pass out or throw up, like something happens to me. So I literally almost passed out or threw up. The end of his email quite literally was telling Black people to stop procreating. In fact, they should just sterilize themselves.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's how we signed off.
Yeah.
Peace and love. Thanks.
And I don't know if it's because I've written a lot of papers. I don't know. I was more mad at just the problem with the grammar than anything else. It was like,
that's what really rattled you?
That's the thing that irritated me the most, is that you're trying to say that we have low IQs, but yet your racist manifesto is littered with, with grammatical errors.
The irony, not lost on me, definitely lost on him.
Oh, someone in the chat, yeah, no name. Just like how all standardized tests are created with the same cultural lens. Yeah, exactly. Like with the SATs, they found that it wasn't based on intelligence or aptitude. It was based on, oh, are you living in a white suburban area and exposed to X, Y, and Z, so that when you see certain cultural words that just don't show up anywhere else, it's like, oh yeah, like I know what that is.
Right. And for people that grew up in Massachusetts, I think I read an article the other day that they're reevaluating MCAS, right?
Yeah, are there?
I think so, for the same reason.
They should. Based on the MCAT when I was in 4th grade, I shouldn't have a master's. I shouldn't have even graduated high school.
Really?
Yeah.
How badly did you do?
Verbal, horrible. Math, like they thought I was like autistic. They thought I was a savant because I was highly proficient in math. But then when the words, all these words, like it, yeah. Yeah, it's fucked up.
Which makes sense to me because I grew up, for people who don't know me personally, grew up in a town, I think last time they did the census, it was 96% white, 97% white, Medfield, Mass. And like we always were like through the roof with MCAS scores, so that makes perfect sense to me because it's literally like tailoring to towns like Medfield.
Yeah, because
we thrive on it.
One black family and then an extra black person because they were adopted, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And my best friend was like the only Hispanic person that I knew. Like a handful of Asian kids in my grade. Small handful though. It was white. Irish and Italian as far as the eye could see.
Well, yeah. Because now I'm thinking of people that I know from. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. So that's what's going on with the email. UMass, you done fucked up. I was in the Instagram group with a couple of brothers, and they were saying that I guess UMass hired some team to find out who it came from, like where it came from. But if you look at the top of the email, it kind of says the dude's name.
It says the person's name, and I creepy tried to find them on Facebook, and the only person with that name, the name's escaping me now, that I could find, it looked like they lived in England. So I gave up. So I don't know if that was a fake name or what.
Really tried hard. Couldn't find him on Facebook.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
Instagram, and I was like, no, this is too hard. There are too many people with that name.
Fair enough.
And what was I going to do with it when I found it? Probably just screenshot it and send it to you.
Yeah, it's really not like, what, you gonna hop in your car and track them down? I didn't like.
I'm too much of a pussy.
Yeah, you hate confrontation. So
I hate confrontation. I like just started sweating thinking about it, but I definitely would have sent it to you.
Yeah, I mean, what am I gonna do? Drive from Georgia to? That is something I would do. Then
I was gonna say you might.
Yeah, that is something I would do. All right.
You and I already talked about it, but the beginning of the email, he said the N-word though. That's the thing that cracked me up. He didn't actually say it. He said like, quote, the N-word. I'm like, just go all in. Just say it.
Well, I told you why. He's like, no, because if I say it, then people will say that I'm racist. It's like, that's where you're drawing the line in the sand. Not sterilization, eugenics. but saying nigga, that's what's gonna get you canceled. Okay.
Sorry, I had to squeak that in.
Yeah, that was wild. But so I also received a statement from someone because I posted on Snapchat like those links where you can post it and then people can write and ask the question anonymously.
Mm-hmm.
So someone said, it's like, I found some of the things on the masculinity, the one that I did on black masculinity, and the final episode, probably talking about the second part of it, to be misogynistic.
Your finale, the second part.
Oh yeah, the second part of it, I said what I said.
Don't take it back. Stand by it.
So would you agree with that? Would you agree with parts of that statement?
So which one do you want to talk about? The scale to rate women, or that women don't have to be what's the word that you used?
Charming.
We don't have to be charming. Which one do you want to talk about? I'll talk about either.
We can talk about both. We can get into both. So which one we can talk about? Let's talk about the scale first.
Yeah, that's the part that I would potentially label misogynistic. The other comment, I wouldn't say it's misogynistic. I don't know if I fully agree. But just like, I've always found it really fascinating. And I do this too, by the way. I don't think this is just men. The patriarchy, man. I've always found it fascinating how fascinated our culture is with talking about and commenting on women's physical features. I'm not saying we don't do it for men. It's just not as common. And the negative connotations with things about women, like we don't have guys get like dad bod and girls think it's cute, and that's like a cute little term. We don't have this equivalent for females. That's just an example. So I'm not saying I don't use
you have slim thick
scales. Oh, slim thick's a good one.
Yeah.
But white girls aren't called that ever.
Because most of you aren't slim thick. Let's keep it a buck.
So I don't know if I would say that's like women specifically. That's a pretty specific term.
So what about it is misogynistic then? Because can you go ahead and say what the actual definition of misogynist?
Strongly prejudiced against women. I Googled it.
Okay. How is that misogynistic?
There's just something that makes me uncomfy about this girl's 15 versus this girl's 18. I'd tap that. It's like it's associating us with like objects. It's not. It just makes me uncomfy. And women don't do that. Like, I do have a small group of girlfriends, believe it or not. It's small, but we don't do that when we talk about guys. Like, we definitely will say like, oh, that guy's hot, that guy's cute. But I've never in a group of girls ever been like, I'd rate that guy at 7. Like, ever. But if I'm with my guy friends, I've rated girls. So I'm not saying I haven't done it. I just think it's fascinating and like a little skeevy.
Well, it's because I think more so with women is that it's pretty binary. Like, if you're going to sleep with a guy or not. With the guys, it's just like, so what I said in the episode is that the good thing about the scale is that it kind of calibrates your confidence too when you have to approach a woman. Is that it's like you're not going to say some like outlandish shit, which actually works out for women. So you don't have guys saying it's just like, hey, sugar tits, what's up? Like, the fuck?
But why would the scale help? Like, in my opinion, you should never be outlandish. So like, why would the scale help? Just you mean like in terms of who you can approach?
No, sometimes you do have to be outlandish.
Sugar tits?
Well, not sugar tits. That'd be a little bit. That's someone with confidence throughout the roof. The scale doesn't even apply to that motherfucker. Like that's just I don't care. I'm gonna say whatever the fuck. No, but there are times that you do need to be a little bit outlandish, and outlandish in the sense it's just like something that's shocking that like just shocks the system. Because if you're trying to approach someone who's like a 25, you coming up to them is just like, oh, hey, I saw you from across the bar and I thought that you looked, to be like, get the fuck out of here. But like, I was watching, what was it, Kevin Samuels, and he was saying like one of his old videos, he'll walk up to like a beautiful woman at a bar and be like, hey, you're in my spot. She was like, excuse me? It's like, you're in my spot. Do you mind moving? And then he was like, I'm just kidding. He was like, but no, seriously, you are in my spot. Do you want a drink? So like that, like shit like that, if you have the right calibration, you can say that shit with confidence versus you thinking it's like, oh my God, she's a 9. I'll never be able to, because the problem with the 1 through 10, a 7 is too close to a 10.
It's so funny, and I've told you this. When you first told me about this like theory that you had about 1 through 10 is not good enough, it's got to be 1 through 30.
Oh, it's not like I got this from Patrice O'Neill.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Just use like decimals, like 7.5 versus an 8. Like the ratio is the same. And then I told you when I started explaining it to my fiance, I like convinced myself into it. I was like, shit, Ollie's right. Like,
yeah,
that scale makes more sense. Because no one's gonna argue between a 7.5 and a 7. This is if we're arguing about somebody's looks. But somebody could potentially argue between like a 21 and like a 25.
Yeah.
So I was like, shit, he's right.
Yeah. Damn. It's a good scale because when you also chop it up into like 1 through 10, like 10 through 20, and then 20 through 30, and it's just like ugly women, cute women, or fine women, and then gorgeous women.
Right. Like, oof.
Yeah. It's just, but with women, it's literally just like, it might be a little, it won't be binary, but it's 3. It's literally like he's ugly, he's cute, he's hot. And that's it. You're just like, oh, okay. But then with guys, it's just like, she ugly cute. Yeah, she's an 11. She ugly cute. Or a 20 would be like, she's fine for a gorgeous girl. No, she's gorgeous for a fine girl.
But come on, like with the scale, if it was actually just being used for like your own calibration, like can I approach this person? Is she in my league, or is she going to laugh in my face and I'm going to walk out of the bar with my tail between my legs?
Well, never that.
That would just be in your head.
Never be discouraged.
Right. But like that should just be like an internal conversation.
Okay.
You're talking about like when I'm talking to my friends, or if I'm talking about a girl and telling a story, this is a way for them to understand what she looks like.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not about like a calibrating. No, you can approach somebody.
I mean, because the thing is that you're talking about it, and it's just like most of the time when we're talking about women or things like that, it's either like us trying to approach them or something like that, or something that a woman did. And then it's just like, and let's be honest, like gorgeous people get away with a lot more.
That is a fact.
Statistically, they can get away with murder. If you are a more attractive person when you're on the stand, it's like jurors will look at you and you have a better likelihood of not being convicted if you are a objectively like gorgeous person.
You're more likely to get a job. You're more likely to literally be elected president of the United States, especially if you're taller.
Yeah.
Isn't it like the taller man, because we've only had male presidents, the taller man
rightfully
is almost always elected. What can a short guy do?
Now that's misogynistic. You want an example? Here you go. Oh yeah, no name, pretty privilege. Yeah, that's what it is. Pretty privilege.
Yeah, pretty privilege.
Pretty privilege. That's exactly what it is. Like so, yeah. So when we're talking about this, it's like it makes sense. It's a better way of just describing people.
Hmm. Actually, I have a good example. I think it's because it's pretty privilege, but I think there's like a couple other things going in there. One of my best friends, like from childhood, is very pretty, super, super tiny, cute little personality. Like everyone that meets her is in love with her. You know,
I
my
know.
friend Nicole.
Yeah.
I can just say her name. Um, she gets away with bringing anything onto an airplane. Like when I tell you, she literally was just on a plane a couple weeks ago because she and I had this conversation back in August, and I was like, "You can't bring food on a plane," and she was like, "Yeah, you can. Like, you can if you bought it on the other side of TSA, but you can't like bring it into the airport and bring." So we're going back and forth and arguing, whatever. So she texted. She was like, I'll show you next time." She texted me after she got through security. She had a water bottle, like knitting needles, and and some food that is escaping my memory right now. And I was like, I've gotten pulled to the side before, and this is me. I've gotten pulled to the side before with like little mini like eyebrow scissors,
Mm-hmm.
food, tiny little water bottles, shampoo that was too big, sunscreen because I need it
Yeah, you do.
all the time.
Yeah,
All the time.
you need it right now, but
Literally. I need it literally. It's like
you can
7:30
catch
p.m.
a tan in the moonlight. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's pretty privileged. Yeah, you said she brought on sewing needles.
Sewing needles.
Yeah, that's why. Like, if I'm at TSA, like, I'm not worried about the guy that looks like like I'm worried about people that look like your friend because I know that person can get away with a lot more. It's like, nah, that midget has a bomb. Like,
right, and somebody's using them for a mule because they can get away with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, she could always be a drug mule if shit doesn't work out.
Side gig.
Yeah. Okay, so that was the scale. Don't really think it's misogynistic, but to each their own. And then the charming thing.
I actually don't.
Brother Bry, sunscreen is a must. Yeah, it is. It is.
Right, it is. He feels my pain.
Yeah, Brother Bry, go ahead and share this with people in the group. Let them know that we're live. And if they don't come on here, then fuck them.
Ollie is out, period. The charming thing. So for people who, if they didn't listen to your finale, your argument was that women don't have to be charming. But I think it was even further than that. I think it was that just women straight up aren't charming.
Yeah. Charm is something that it was invented by men.
Right. So I don't agree or disagree with this. I think attractive women are not very charming. They certainly don't have to be. Everything just kind of comes to them.
No, I was responding to the chat, Kev.
Kev.
I'm sorry, but you said that attractive women don't have to be charming, but unattractive ones. No, I think that just unattractive women just have to work more on their personality.
And I also think men know how to fake being charming. I don't think that they just like are, because plenty of men just like are not charming at all, but they can be when they need to be. And I think it's similar for women. I just don't think it's as big of a scale.
Men faking being charming. Nah. Well, I think there's a difference between being charming and just straight lying. Because like some men will imply love just to sleep with a woman. That's fucked up. Like they'll just straight lie.
Right.
It's like, so that's where I disagree with, because you'll have like all these like you have this whole sphere of businesses where it's just like pickup artists and shit like that. It's just like, bro, it's like it's easy. Literally just you can just be yourself and be confident. And where that confidence comes from is having the right calibration. Just saying.
So what's your definition then of charming? Because I don't think it's just about
Kevin said
trying to get with someone. What do you say?
Kevin said that you can turn it on and off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, but yeah. So like if you are charming, you can turn it on and off. But then there are some people that just lie. Those are just liars.
Right. Which I think is just different.
Yeah.
But like women, I think, are less charming potentially in like social situations. But like when you have to go out for a job, for example, everyone has to turn on the charm. And the people who are less charming are less likely to get the job. Unless it's like a data entry, like IT behind the scenes kind of a thing. Getting out of a ticket. You know, things like, so I feel like there's like a lot of other scenarios that women can be a certain type of charming.
But here's the thing. So with that, with being in a, let's say getting out of a ticket, what does that charm consist of?
I think any charm is just knowing how to talk to somebody in the situation, reading the context, and knowing how to get what you want, and not always in like a skeevy way.
In a what
but
way?
Just like I can read this skeevy, like I can read this situation and I know what to say and how this, and I know what to say that this person's going to like me. I'm going to be more likable, and then I can probably get what I want out of it.
No Name says you have to be able to sell yourself to get a job or getting out of a ticket. What are you selling? That's what
I've never actually gotten out of a ticket. So
with women, the charm is there because men are in charge of the physicality. Women are in charge of the sexuality. It's literally selling a little piece of the sexuality part with just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know I was going that fast. Using a nice sensual voice. That's what the charm is. So it's not anything like if you're good looking, you just like not even no, I would say it's using the fact that like women are in control of the sexuality part of just like society. It's like and when I say this, you're probably gonna flip it, but it's like women are objects of desire. Like when men look at like them, they are like they do embody. They're not only that, but they are that. Their object of desire. It's like because like for men, it's like, oh, I want to be with that person. They control the desirability of like sex.
say more.
Say what? That's
what do you mean by that?
Women can women control who has sex. That's it.
I don't disagree, I guess.
Yeah. That's it. Women control who has sex. So they have that certain amount of power. And it's and with that is that there are times that they weaponize it. And weaponize it in the means of it can be just something as easy as getting out of a ticket or something even more nefarious.
I don't disagree with it. I just think you and I are going to disagree on the reason as to why.
No Name said it's about learning to lean into your femininity. Yeah. Yeah. I think, but you said that we're not going to agree.
I don't think we're going to agree on why women can do that. Also, if you really want to get into it, guys at the end of the day can get what they want sexually if they want, and they do.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but that's a crime. That's like, I think we all realize that that's not good.
But I think women
do
it sometimes consciously. No, go ahead.
No, because I'm like, in the sense of the dating game, is that like women use the fact that they can control. It's like, oh, I'm not like, no. It's like, so essentially like charm came from having to convince a woman to say yes. Because charm is essentially like, there are different degrees of it. There's some, I prefer more like the charm is like, you're just being authentic. You're just saying what the fuck is up. And you're just being you. Yeah, be a little bit funny and everything like that. But then on the other side, there are some men that will literally tap dance because it's just like, oh, like, I don't want to say anything wrong because I don't want to talk myself out of getting some. So like, personally, I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. If you say some goofy shit around me, I'm going to tell you that's some goofy shit. And it's not being malicious, but let me help you because no, because seriously, if you're saying some goofy shit, most guys will sit there, just be like, oh no, don't say anything because it's gonna fuck it up. But they remember, and it's just like, if they do sleep with you, after they do, it's like, I'm not gonna stick around with this goofy bit. Like
right, because of what she said earlier. But I think that's why I want to know what you're meaning when you say charming, because it seems like you keep equating it back to like sexual things, whereas like there's literally charm school for women, right? Like especially back in the day, because we had to be a certain way, and the definition of that was charming. So we had to be proper. We had to present ourselves well. We had to sit up and cross our legs and wear dresses and know what to say and when not to say it. Right, but that's why I'm asking what you mean by charming, because so that's where I disagree with you, because I do think women can be charming, but in the definition that you're kind of talking about, I think less so.
Okay, so I'm gonna get to that 1 second. No Name said personality, charm, confidence, being submissive. Both genders can get what they want at the end of the day. It's all about playing a part in order to get it. Beyonce being Shasha fierce so she can have the confidence to perform on stage. She's in her personal life, she's more reserved, again, playing a part. Yeah. Yes, because I guarantee you, like, in that relationship, Jay-Z is the leader in it. Even though that does Beyonce make more? I don't know their finances. I don't know. I don't know. Somebody's in the chat's probably gonna let me know. But he's the leader there. So I agree with No Name. It's like, yes, it's playing a part. Men have to play that part on a daily basis if they're trying to interact with women. If they're trying to court someone, we have to play that part more so than women. Like, women might have to, like, in a sense, weaponize their sexuality if they're trying to be more appealing for a job, or like you said, like, get out of a ticket and things like that. It's like, but that's not necessarily mandatory. You choose to do that to get ahead, but for men, it is damn near mandatory to be charming, to even have a woman give you the time of day.
Yes, I agree. That's the part I agree with. So if we're only talking about being charming in terms of like a sexual or like relationships, then that's where I agree with you, is that men have to be more charming.
We're saying about the charm school, it's like, sit up straight, cross your legs, do all that. It's like, I disagree with the name, because it's like, it's not charm. It's just like pretty much like womanhood training. It's like, hopefully guys start having schools and shit like that, where it's just like listening, like finding out how to actually step into your masculinity, step into your manhood, and not like without the context of a woman. Because I said this in the last one. Jay-Z has a higher net worth. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So he makes more.
Makes sense.
So he has shut the fuck up money. No, but like hopefully there's art schools like that. I know online there are places like people like Kevin Samuels where he does the quote unquote high value man, which for those listening, it is literally not only about income, it's other things, but people that listen to him only take out the small part of the income part. There's like 6 different things. So when you say charm school, when you look at what is actually being taught, it's not necessarily charm. It's just like teaching women how to carry themselves.
Because to get what they want, which I think is the definition of charming.
No, it's just a way of it's literally a way of carrying yourself, because it's so they had to do charm school because these things weren't being taught at home. There was like a shift in the societal zeitgeist. It was just like, oh, women don't have to act this way. Da, da, da. It's like, okay, fine. You got what you wanted. You got what you wanted, but you're not getting the outcome that you want. Because most women want to be married.
Probably.
So if like a guy does not find that attractive, if a woman slumped over, just like literally, well, I guess man spreading, like slumped over man spreading, like talking to him, like, what's up, motherfucker? It's like, you're like, yeah, you work on a boat, you fucking sailor. Like it's about a way of carrying and conducting yourself. So I would say,
yeah, I think we just have a different definition of charm, because like think of like a spell. Like sometimes they say like you're like a charm. It's doing something to get the outcome that you want. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's always about like sexuality or personality necessarily. It's like, well, it's always about personality. I take that back, but like sexuality.
But the thing is that when women have to charm, it leans heavy on the femininity and the like sexuality side of it. Whether it's like, you're not saying to them, it's like, hey, you want to fuck me? But it's like talking in a really, really like sulky voice and just really like very essential voice. It's like, so it's like, it does have certain connotations to that. So it's like, so there are things that like it's derived from that. For men, the charm has to come from working on our personality, being intelligent, being confident, having a good, like there's so many things that men have to do to classify as charming to hit those boxes, that's why I just say that it's not the same. It's like for women, the charm is using something that was given to you at birth. For men, charming is something that I had to cultivate. Because if looks worked as charm for men, half of us wouldn't be buying all these fancy cars, big houses, wouldn't be funny, have a 4th grade education, and like if we didn't have a shitty personality. But we have to build all that stuff up just to get on the same level of something that you were born with. Next question.
I was going to say, we're never going to agree on this. So next question.
I'm like a good looking guy. Oh, okay. So this one came in. So what are your thoughts about interracial dating?
This is a great question.
Oh wait, that question's for me. Hang on. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I want to know what your thoughts are on it.
For the most part, I really don't care, because I think people make it a bigger issue than what it actually is. I think the rates are 90% of Black women are married to a Black man, and 84% of Black men are married to Black women. I think it's I think people overreact because of what we have seen in the media. Is that I think that it is overrepresented in the media because it's all for the whole thing of diversity and inclusion and da 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 da. It's just like, all right, but like this is an instance of art not imitating life. So I really don't see it as a problem. Now, if we're talking about the actual concept of it and everything like that, I actually had a conversation with my cousin about this yesterday, and it was a whole conversation of like, can you be pro-black and have a white wife? Because there's people who will say that like if you're pro-black everything, like white black wife, black kids, black family, da 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 da, building the community. Okay, and I understand where that sentiment comes from. The thing that I will say is that if the caveat that I would give is that if your spouse is like a John Brown white person, because at that point, well, we talked about it earlier. You know who John Brown is.
Now I do. I had to look it up earlier.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, John Brown was a white abolitionist who went around and pretty much went around killing white people on the behalf of black people because his thing was that God called him to start a war to free enslaved Africans. And it was Harper's Ferry that he ended up trying to so at Harper's Ferry, it was the largest armory in the OG baby did. Okay.
No.
Okay. I'll get to your OG baby daddy. I'll get to you in a second. So Harper's Ferry was the largest armory in the colonies at that time. So his plan was he was going to go raid Harper's Ferry, get all the guns, give them to black people. They were going to go up into the mountains and start a war. It didn't work out. Some people didn't show up, but I think he ended up killing like either 21 or 31 white people. And some historians have credited Harper's Ferry for the start of the Civil War because that shook white people because it's just like, oh, our Negroes are mad. Like, and they really got shook. And the thing is that when he was sentenced to death, he was supposed to face a firing squad, but he chose to him and his sons chose to be hung next to the people that they were fighting against because he was white. It was like, we'll shoot you, but we gonna hang them. And he was like, nah, hang me with them.
Wow, badass.
So that's why I say if you have yourself a John Brown person, someone who is for your cause, not someone who's just sympathetic, who's like, oh, I feel bad for black people. Da, 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 da. Now, do I see a lot of that when I do look at interracial like datings? Not that much. Maybe there just aren't that many John Brown white people out there. I don't know.
Right.
But I think if you are not willing to talk candidly about race with your significant partner, and like, what do you like? Certain conversations can only go so far. Because at least if I'm married or dating like a black woman, she will understand. She won't understand what it's like to be a black man, but she understands what it's like to be black. Mm-hmm. So we can connect on that. And if she's staying at home, when I come home, it's like all of the shit that I had to deal with being a black man. It's like, I'm not coming home to someone who's just like, well, I just don't understand. It's like, I don't need to have to educate my spouse about all like everything within my lived experience.
Right.
Like,
so would you ever marry a white person? Female, obviously. A white female. I said person, but white female.
Yeah, like I said, if it'd have to be a John Brown white woman.
Yeah.
So not a, or John Brown, any type of person. I'm really not that discriminatory, but I mean, I understand what people will say. You're like, oh, well, I thought that, but it's like, but those same people don't know shit about their history. It's like, so it's like you're telling me I'm a seller, everything like that. And it's like, but when we're trying to have a conversation, it's like, I'm still teaching you about you. And you have the audacity to say to me, I don't know what I'm talking about, that I'm not authentic. But I do understand the sentiment that some people have about, because I think being pro-Black is a gradient. I'm not going to say spectrum. It's a gradient in that you have some very extreme, diehard pro-Black people that is like anything that touches their life is Black. It's like, that's great. Well, they say that's great, but Black people don't own that much, so not everything that touches your life is Black. Then you have some people that are a little bit more moderate to it. Yeah, I would say I'd find myself more so in the moderate because I don't necessarily ascribe to a lot of the outlandish stuff that very, very pro-Black. Like, I think I explained to you about Hotep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like the Hotep people, like I don't ascribe to that because I just see it as just like it's an overcorrection of something. It's like you've gone so far to this side that it's like you're hurting the same people that you say that you care about so much.
Right.
And the other thing is that fine, if we also have to have a conversation is that if we're gonna disown those people within an interracial marriage, you say you care about the kids so much. What are the kids? Are you just going to abandon the kids?
Right.
Because as long as, I would say this, as long as the non-Black parent isn't putting some crazy shit in their head, it's just like, we're all just equal. We're all just created equal. We're like, it's just all love. It's just like, because I've ran into some people where they are, and I've seen it on Facebook, there's a white mother, black children, and they're like, well, we're just all equal. And I don't understand. It's like, you had no business having a Black baby because at this point, you're responsible for your own child's death. So I don't want to hear about, oh, well, this is just a trap. No, you set your child up to die because you thought everything is just idealistic, all great. It's like, no, if you're not willing to have those types of conversations with your spouse and subsequently your children, you have no business being with a Black person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many white people are willing to have that conversation. And then you also have the people that just see it as a fetish on either side.
Right.
And I'll say this, like,
fair.
I've met some Black men that have a fetish for white women. It's the snow bunny syndrome.
You taught me that phrase in college, or no, yeah, it was snow bunny. You were like, someone ever yells snow bunny at you on the street, run. I was like,
it's like, you should probably not. Okay, let's get to this chat. Do you think people should be worried about the social programming that comes out of stereotypical interracial TV family?
The social programming?
Yeah, do you think people should be worried about the social programming that comes out of the stereotypical interracial TV family?
What do you think?
The social programming. I'm actually in OG Big Daddy. I'm actually what do you mean when you like social programming? Because I'm interested like for you to kind of elaborate a little bit more with that. Like the social, unless you're meaning it in the sense of that people are thinking that, oh, this is happening more so than what it is, or people are saying like, oh, this is I don't want to say acceptable, because I mean, it is, do whatever the fuck you want. What you eat doesn't make me shit, so I really don't care. But, and
As long
I
as you're
think
not
that,
hurting somebody.
yeah, and I think, like, for me, that's the crux I get down to, is like, I'm I really don't care what you do in your personal life. I care when it starts affecting the community, the people. So if you want to go ahead and do whatever, be with whoever you want, fine. It's like, but when you start sprouting some shit that's like detrimental to the community, it's like, if we follow you, like, where the fuck are you leading us?
Right.
Because if you have someone who's like a leader in the community, marries a non-black person, they're in their ear, it's like, well, I just don't know. Yeah, I just don't see color. Da, 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 da. And then that leader now tries to disseminate that out to the people. And you have people walking around just like, oh, I'm not black. No, society will teach a black ass. As Paul Mooney said, it's like, you'll get your nigga wake up call. I'm pretty sure I'm swearing too much on this and saying too much stuff. This video is probably going to get taken down.
I was going to say, like, I don't know how much it matters what my opinion is on it to an extent, but the only time I have a strong opinion about interracial dating really is kind of to what you're saying, Ollie, is when one person, no matter what their race is, doesn't respect or try to highlight the other person's culture, right? Like if they're trying to diminish the other person's culture or expunge it, or let's not talk about it, or let's not teach our children the culture, that's when I have a problem with it.
Okay. Well, yeah, this is a good problem to have. I'm just reading the chat. OG Big Daddy, OG Baby Daddy. I don't know why I keep calling you OG Big Daddy. I'm sorry. Do you think that families being interracial, do you think it could have an effect on the rates of interracial dating, and if certain people are ignorant of the history or ignorant of Black history, and marrying in could be that detrimental to the community? I think that it can have an effect on the race of interracial dating, because the television is a very powerful tool. It can subconsciously your mind. And if people don't know the actual facts behind it, they would think that and mostly when you see interracial dating, it's a Black man and white woman. It's like you would think that every Black man got himself a Becky, but that's just not the case. But I think it can have a very strong impact. I think more particularly on Black women, because if they're seeing that constantly over and over again, it's just like. And I've heard, I've listened to different videos where Black women call in and it's like, well, he's probably with the white woman. I'm just like, why do you say that? 84% of, there was a video. It was a video that was posted by Abba and Preach, and they did a reaction to it. And it was a Black woman talking about like how she saw like an attractive Black man on campus and wanted to approach him, but thought that, oh, he's probably not into Black girls. He probably has a white girlfriend. And it's just like, whoa, where the hell did that come from?
Hot take.
I would argue part of it might, first of all, be her own self-esteem, and the other part of it possibly could be the programming. As Baby Daddy said, is the social programming. So yeah, I think that it can have an effect. I think that like obviously I'm not saying no interracial couples on there, but it just seems that whenever there's Black people on like big major TV stations in a sitcom or like any family TV show is that a the Black person always has to have something extra about them. So it's just like he's Black, but he's married to a white woman. She's Black, but she's a lesbian. It's like they're Black, but they might be missing a fucking leg. Like it's just it seems like to sell to make us. It seems to make us more human. We have to be something more than just Black.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I can relate to that person because I'm a lesbian. Not I can relate to that person because they're Black. It's like it's always when we're on the TV, we always have to have some type of additive. That's just my opinion on it. Oh, what up, Bullet? Okay, question for Rebecca. Does that ever happen in reverse?
Does whatever happen in reverse?
I think he's talking about like how what you're talking about when you don't agree with like when you have a strong opinion about interracial dating.
About how I think both people should be like holding up the other person's culture and supporting it and talking about it. You mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does it ever happen in reverse?
Like,
do white people have a culture?
I mean, heavily steeped in violence. I
guess it would be more like
you have Irish culture,
like ethnicity. I guess at that point, like there is no white culture, so I don't know if it's necessarily the same if it happens in the reverse. But I do think my personal opinion is no matter what the person's background is, so like even if it's two white people and they come from like different classes, or two Black people and they both come from very different areas of the world, like I just think that you should celebrate the other person's culture and not try to squash it out. That's just my personal opinion.
All right, hang on. Nah, I elaborated. Oh, hang on. I'm sorry, guys. This is my first time. I'm running a little bit slow with the chat. Great point on, okay. Oh, wait, hang on. Great point on how Black women might feel negative emotions from constantly seeing interracial relations where it's a Black woman. Oh, that's what he means. Okay. All right. I got you, Bullet. I got you. Okay. So Baby Daddy says, great point on how Black women might feel negative emotions from constantly seeing interracial relations where it is a Black man and white woman. And then Bullet asks, question for Rebecca, does that happen in reverse?
Ooh. I don't know. I personally,
like, would white women see like a white guy dating a Black girl and be like, oh, like she took a good one? Because essentially and I've heard this, is like when Black women have said this, it's just like they're taking all our good men.
Right. That's such a good question. I've never had that conversation before. I'm sure that people think that. I feel like the only time I've ever thought that personally is when like a short girl takes a really tall guy, because I'm 5'9", so I get pissy. Not anymore, but I used to get really pissy. I was like, screw that. Stop taking all the tall guys. There's only so many.
Yeah, I think guys that are like 6 feet and above, or I think it's like 10% of the population or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm in like the 95th percentile or something for like American women's height. I'm really tall.
Might as well just join the fucking WNBA.
Except for I'm not athletic. There's no pro to me being this tall. I digress. I've never really heard that conversation being had. I think that the stereotype isn't really there the same way that it is for a white woman being with a Black guy. In my opinion, from conversations that I've had, I think the stereotype is a little bit different. Have you ever heard like a white woman say that before? I'm sure they have. I just haven't heard it.
No, like I personally, I haven't heard it. I'm just
Right.
I'm trying to think through. It's like, would that? Here's a might be a little bit of a hot take.
Oh God.
I think it's because if a white woman sees that, is like she knows that, like, and that might be part of the social programming, is that on um on TV is that you see, like, once a black man becomes successful, Kanye West said, it's like, once you get on, leave your ass for a white girl. Like, it's yeah, okay. So we answered it. We got it. We nailed it. But yeah, it's like, so I think with the social programming, it's like it's thought that, oh, as soon as a black man gets money, like, becomes the higher echelon of society, that he just gives himself a white woman. I think, like, when a white woman sees a white guy, it's kind of like there's more of them out there. Whereas, like,
Right. I agree.
it's like, oh, it's like I don't get Brad, but I might get Chad. Like,
Right.
and I think that also maybe a part of it, could be wrong, is that I've I've kind of heard from some black women, and I tried to try to get this shit out of their head, but it's like, oh, black man ain't shit, or men aren't shit. It was just like, so then when you see one that might be a little bit more successful with, like, so if you say, like, oh, black men aren't shit, and then you know that there's a small group of black men that are getting out there, it's like, oh, the ones that aren't shit, they're marrying white women. Like, so I think that that's something interesting that I've thought about, but I haven't gone too deep into yet. But yeah, that's definitely something interesting. Kat, do you think you don't hear it because it would be considered racist to say it?
I think that is definitely probably part of it, Kevin. I also just genuinely, like, I'm trying to think if I know personally any white guys that are dating or married to black females. So it might just be my circle that I've just never, I'm really trying to think. I can't think of anyone that I personally know. Which I guess just goes to show you how uncommon it is compared to the reverse.
Well, yeah, because when you look at it, 92% of black women are married to black men. So that's 8% that aren't married to a black man. But I don't know how that 8% breaks down in terms of white, Asian, Hispanic, and Middle Eastern. Yeah. Did I forget anybody? No. Yeah. So I don't know how that breaks down, but that would be 8%.
Yeah.
So 8%.
And this might be a little out of pocket, but I feel like my personal opinion is also some of it is beauty standards. Whereas, like, I'm not saying this is all the time, but like a lot of black men in, like, the entertainment industry, everyone talks about how beautiful they are, and you don't see it as much for black women, whereas like white women are like the beauty standards. So I think that's part of it too, is it's like this like bias that you have ingrained in your head of what the beauty standard is.
Yeah, I think that now the beauty standard isn't changing. It's still white women, but I've noticed that it's essentially like fucking Miss Potato Head. They're just taking black parts and putting them on themselves.
Right.
Because before Kim Kardashian, a white girl with a big butt was just like damn near non-existent. Now you see,
in fact, like in movies from like the 90s and early 2000s, you see in like catty conversations a girl making fun of another girl for how big their butt is when they're white women. And then there was like that cultural shift. You're right. Like the Kim Kardashian, Beyonce,
Well,
I'll
no,
loop J Lo, I guess, in there.
not Beyonce, because that was stereotypical for
Right.
Black women. It was Kim
Right.
Kardashian that was just like, you know what? I like that. I like that, not the person. So if you want to talk about
Right.
objectification, it's literally looking at parts of Black people and saying, I want. It's like, yeah. So I don't think the beauty standards have. I don't think the beauty standards have changed. I think it's just they're starting to take parts of Black people and putting them on white people. Which, if you want a culture, that's kind of part of white culture.
Yeah.
I think it was I don't remember the white woman's name, but it was this famous actress that ended up wearing cornrows. And there was a case where a Black woman was fired from her job for wearing cornrows, where it is a cultural hairstyle. But the judge said that, oh, it wasn't cultural because she was mimicking that white actress who had the cornrows when that white actress was mimicking white people. So she didn't, so her case got thrown. Yeah. That's some
trying to make sense of that one.
That's racist inception for you. It's just racism in a like nestled Russian doll.
Do you think that plays into it at all? Or is that just like what I've kind of seen personally? Like, do you think that that's why, or potentially part of why it's more common for a white woman to date a Black man as opposed to a white man dating a Black woman?
I'm sorry.
Do you think that it has anything to do? Do you think it has anything to do with like the beauty standards that are kind of like pushed at us from like the entertainment industry and stuff? Or do you think that doesn't really play a role?
What, with white men dating Black women?
Yeah.
I think a part of it, yeah, some of them might just love their Black wife. I think a part of it could also be is that it's a fetish. It's exciting. It's for what was it? Like a long time ago, is that well, it started in slavery and it progressed to later on. But during slavery, like with white slave owners, like they would tell their sons, it's just like, you weren't really a man until you had sex with a Black woman because they're so fierce and their sex is wild. And so they would assault Black women, sexually assault Black women, so that was their passage into manhood. Let's see. No Name said, yes, if a Black woman has an attitude, it's a problem. But if a Latina woman has an attitude, then it's spicy and desirable. Yeah. And then he also said, hence why the Crown Act was created. Yeah. The Crown Act. You know what the Crown Act is?
No, I don't know what the Crown Act is.
I know bits and pieces of it. Essentially, it essentially protected from being discriminated against based on your hairstyle. So if I was going to work for Hollister, they wouldn't have to tell me to cut my hair.
Got it.
Yeah. So it's.
But they could certainly not hire you and use another reason.
What's up?
When I was in recruiting at a previous employer, I can't tell you the number of times that people would ask, what did that person's hair look like if their name didn't sound European? Regularly.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that previous employer, didn't it not have to involve the person being seen physically?
Sometimes, but most of the time they had to go in for like an in-person interview. And so I would be asked, did I see that person and did I vet them basically, that their appearance is appropriate to send them to a client? Unpack that shit.
Well, I have a couple more of these, but well, I kind of have to get to this one because Kevin's in here. So, missing white woman syndrome and the whole Gabby, what is her last name? Starts with a P. Gabby P.
Petito. Gabby Petito, I think.
Yeah. So the whole wanted to kind of just talk about that. Honestly, there's nothing new underneath the sun. White life is valuable. White woman's life is valuable. How long do you think the news would look for you if you went missing?
Oh, with John Getz on the trail, forever.
Forever? No, let's say like how long? I'm saying 6 months.
I was gonna say a few months at least. It would be a hot topic.
I think the thing that kind of irritated me about it was the first of all, the fact is that if you were on Instagram and you had Black friends, like people were posting about Jelani Day, who went missing around the same time this white woman did, and nothing. They unfortunately just found his body, I think last week. But
I didn't see that.
Is that the police were dragging their feet with it. They found a body and then never like they found a body like okay, test to see if it's him, and they didn't let the parents come and try to physically ID the body. So they were dragging their feet about the whole thing. And it's just kind of the virtue signaling that I'm seeing from a lot of my liberal friends and news stations. Like, for example, there was a Instagram post that was going around of Joy Reid on MSNBC, who was talking about, she did a whole segment about missing Black people in America. I found it very disingenuous because I watch MSNBC a fair amount, and then I asked my dad, who watches it pretty much every single day, and I was like, Dad, when have they ever reported about a missing Black person? He was like, never. It's like, there you go. You want to, and they point the finger at other news stations. It's like, you guys are not doing it. It's like, you are a news station, are you not? It's like, right. So why is it that they're the bad guys, but oh no, Black people, we're your friends, but yet you never reported about us. You only reported about us because a white woman went missing, and then you saw a disparity. The disparity is there, you just weren't looking. So I think it's very disingenuous because honestly, what she could have done, and she could have had that segment, but cut it 10 minutes short and actually have a reel of missing Black people in America. If you really want to talk about, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm actually putting rubber to the road. Have a segment where you actually just sit there and go through stories of missing Black people.
Mm-hmm. It's performative.
But yeah, it's bullshit.
I actually don't think I told you this yet, Ali, but and forgive me, I'm so bad with names. What was the name of the man that they just found? You just said his name. Oh,
Jelani Day.
Jelani Day. So I, not surprisingly, hadn't heard about him until I saw that you posted him on Instagram. So I looked into it, was kind of following the story a little bit, with the little media attention that it was getting, whatever. Posted one thing on my Instagram story, and I had a friend message me, do you know them? And I was like, no. And they were like, oh, this is so sad. I hadn't heard about this. And I like kind of paused, and I know it was good intention, but if I had posted about Gabby Petito, which I didn't, nobody would have asked me, do you know her? Yeah. It was almost like this subconscious, like, why are you posting about this? Is it because it's personal to you? No. Like, what? And it took me a second to like, for that to click that I think that's why the person was asking, but I don't think they knew, obviously. They weren't aware, but
well, it showed a symptom of the society is that the importance of Black people is proportional to their proximity to white people. Like if Jelani Day had a white girlfriend, they probably would have looked a little bit harder.
Whew, say that again.
If he had a white girlfriend, they would have looked harder. That's like, don't get mad at me. That's society. I'm just saying what society does. It's unfortunate that for Black people to gain any type of attention on the news or something like that in a concerned or positive light, it is in proximity to white people. Good example. I think it was a couple of years ago. It was in France. There was this. there was this white child that like I guess was hanging from a balcony or some shit like that, and there was this black immigrant. I forget where he was from. Maybe Senegal. I think he might have been Senegal. I don't know. He was black. This motherfucker scaled the outside of the building to rescue that child, and then scaled down with the child in his arms. And then the French prime minister then granted him citizenship. Because he wasn't a citizen, he was just an immigrant there. And because he did that, he got citizenship. So for Black people to gain any type of importance in the society or on the news is like, we have to turn into fucking superheroes.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I haven't heard anything about the police looking into what happened to him. But everybody wants to know what happened to Gabby Petito. It must have been murder from her boyfriend, or was it suicide because she had like a mental illness? I think she had OCD. But the police aren't looking into what happened to him.
They say that an investigation is underway. We'll see.
Right. We'll never hear about it again.
I'm not sure if they've ruled it a homicide or not yet. Because his car was found in a wooded area with his clothes in the back, and his ID card was found in the woods, which doesn't make sense because if you're gonna go ahead and delete yourself, you're gonna take everything off and put it in the back of the car. So it doesn't make sense that his badge was found further in the woods, but his clothes were found there in the back seat.
And wasn't he on film wearing like his nice work clothes, and then all of a sudden, like as if he was going to work, and then all of a sudden he was wearing just like his non-work clothes afterwards and was caught on like why? I'm so fascinated by this. It looks like he was on his way to work on camera, and then another camera caught him later in the morning because he never showed up to like a meeting or something, and he was no longer wearing his work clothes, but he didn't call in.
Yeah, because he had a meeting. I don't know. No Name said
By that.
Twice as good just to compare to them being average. Yeah. It's I agree with that. And also it's just like, it's not, I'll say this, is that we don't have to be twice as good to compare to them. We have to be twice as good to be acknowledged by them. And that's where I personally draw the line. It's just like if you're looking for white validation, yeah, you're gonna have to go above and beyond and be fucking Spider-Man. You have to be Miles Morales, fucking climbing buildings.
Apparently.
But if you're not looking for that type of validation, then like you don't have to be twice as good. That's where I kind of that's the way that I kind of look at it, is that I've never really sought the validation of white people. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I know people probably say, like, well, you joined a white frat. I wasn't looking for validation. I was looking for a place to fucking party.
Right. I was going to say that wasn't.
No, because I've had people give me looks and shit like that when I've told them, it's like, oh no, I'm part of a white fraternity. And they're just like, why? It's like, first of all,
why not?
Yeah. It's like, it was the only place well, first of all, my friend was already in there, and then my friend group joined there. So I was like, fuck it, I'll do it too. Hang on. That's just for us to even get in the same room in order to compete, jobs, schools, etc. Yeah, jobs. Well, jobs. We need to own something. We need to start creating something. Schools, HBCUs.
Shout out.
Yeah. As two UMass alum, what do you think of the email that got sent? Oh, Kev, you showed up a little bit late. You're gonna have to go back when I post this, go back to the beginning. We got into that. It was it was interesting with some had some grammatical errors that I was not too fond of. But yeah, you're gonna have to go earlier in the video, in the live. So that's it that I have. I know that you came with some questions. It's been an hour and a half. I can fucking talk.
I was gonna say, do we have time? Do you want me to ask any questions?
Yeah, we can keep going as long as we want.
Screw it. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so I kind of already asked you this question, and you and I have had this conversation before.
1 second.
Oh, go for it.
Yes, but even degrees from HBCUs aren't even seen as real degrees. They are seen as subpar. Subpar to who? Subpar to white people. That goes back to what I was saying, is that if we have our own institutions, have our own control, if we actually control what we need to control, this twice as good or working twice as hard would not even be a factor, because when you talk to Black people, they have high respect for the, okay, he said Black people too. No, Black people too. Yeah, those are just Negroes. Those aren't Black people. No, I'm calling what it is. If we control the things that, not all, yeah, it's like, but yeah, I said not all. So where was I? Oh yeah, if we control the things that we need to control, then we won't have to worry about, oh, my degree from the HBCU won't look as good as something from Harvard. That's to white people. That's what white people do. It's like anything that we do that is for us, FUBU, for us, by us, it's like they're gonna look at it as subpar. There's the old saying, the white man's ice is colder. We need to break this tradition of, it's like, well, it's not seen as this, it's not, it's like, let your work speak for itself. And if they don't want that, fuck them. It's like, and we need to be on the same, as a people, we need to be on the same page. We need to have a code of conduct, code of ethics, in which how we move and shake with each other. Is everyone going to stay on code? Probably not. You have people like Stacey Dash. She's not invited. She's not invited anymore. Kick them out. But we need to establish it for ourselves and not in relation to other people. Because if you say to a Black child that's thinking about going to HBCU, well, what are you planning on doing? Because a degree from there might not look as good as one from Harvard. Oh, well, okay. Well, I'm not going to HBCU. Enrollment drops. Then they have to raise the cost of tuition just to keep up. People can't keep up with the rising cost of tuition. More people stop enrolling. HBCU shuts down. Now, those white schools are only letting in a few Black people to meet a certain quota. Certain quota for the academic, and then they need to build their football and basketball team. So it's like, my thing is like, what is the goal moving forward? Because yes, we can say that they will see our degrees as less than ideal or not as much. That's happening to me right now. I'm applying to these PhD programs and they blow by the fact that I have a master's, the fact that I'm published 3 times, the fact that I had a 3.7 GPA, the fact that I've presented at the CDC twice. They blow by that and say, oh, well, your GRE scores aren't where it needs to be and your undergraduate GPA is low. I had a 2.7. I fucked around. I was also in biochemistry. So I understand where that comes from and how hard it is to try to move in that. And I just said, fuck it. I'm applying to schools again. might apply to some PWIs, but I know there's one school in particular. Shout out to Southern University, Baton Rouge. I'm trying to go there for my PhD in public policy. It's like, because I know that at least when I go there, they're actually going to look at the merit of the things that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is, moving forward, we need to, because true leadership is, true leadership has three components. It has a vision, action plan, and tenacity. And with tenacity, it's doing things not doing things in spite of. So yeah, they might not think that our degrees are worth a damn. Okay, I'm still gonna be Dr. Davis though. I have degrees from both, and people even light up when I tell them the 3 PWI attended in that of all races. Hang on, I have degrees from both, and people eyes light up when I tell three the PWI attended, and that is for all races. Yeah, we have to understand white supremacy is very invasive. White supremacy people think that white supremacy only affects white people. You have Black white supremacists. You have dark-skinned Anglo-Saxons running around perpetuating white supremacy. Those are what I call the Negroes. But you got a question for me.
I was gonna say, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. I'm just listening. I'm like, tell me more.
Sorry,
Did you say? No, did you say everything? I don't want to. I don't want to switch gears. Do you have anything else to say about it?
No, I'm done. I'm done preaching.
Okay. So Kevin, I guess this is kind of relevant to what he just brought up with that email. And I kind of asked you at the beginning of the live, Ali, but I love having this conversation with you, so I thought it was worth bringing up. What are your feelings on white people saying the phrase, the N-word, instead of actually saying the word? Just what are your feelings on it as like a whole?
It's a bit by Louis C.K. and whatever people feel about him is that what he said is that he was saying was like, well, it's dumb when people say the N-word because when you hear it, you think the word, and that's what speech is. You see the word in your head. It's like, so you're not trying to say it, but you want me to think it. It's like, honestly, it's for me. Don't say it around me. I don't like. Just don't say it around me, I guess. People want to say that, oh, well, the term has changed and it means something different now. It's like, yes, I understand within any community, they will take words that were once used against them derogatorily and then like rebrand it as something else. Mm-hmm. Like, so I understand that phenomenon and everything like that. But unless you're going to fight every white person that says it, it's like you ultimately cannot control what someone says. You can control on how you react to the words. Now, if I'm in a situation and I'm just walking down the street and someone's like, hey, nigga, I'd keep walking. I just keep walking.
Not worth your time or energy.
Because the thing is that I know what society I live in. I stop, I act rash, I beat the hell out of this white man, presumably, or white woman. These hands are rated E for everyone. I love that. I'm kidding. Don't hit women. But no, I know that if that escalates, who's going to be in the wrong? Mm-hmm. Because it's only a hate crime if they scream nigga while they're hanging me, not just by saying it. And I think a lot of people have to, like, they start having this conversation as kind of a caveat to how to police speech, which I'm against. My thing is just say whatever, say whatever the fuck you want. If there are consequences to it, okay.
Right.
I think that sometimes the consequences vastly outweigh what the fuck was said. Um, yeah, vastly outweighs what the fuck was said. And for example, how like when Ben Shapiro and was it Mile Yara fucking Populous was doing like college tours, or when these like conservative right wing people do college tours, liberals will come out and protest and scream them down and da 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 da. It's just like, first of all, by no means am I saying that these people are smart, but you scream, like, you're screaming because you don't have the tools to actually debate them.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I call on the intellectuals in these spaces where it's just like, oh well, it's like if you're a philosophy teacher or gender study teacher, or whatever, on one of those campuses where they come to, show up and start actually debating them. Because outside of that, if you're just screaming and saying shut the fuck up, like, then you're giving that person more fuel. It's just like, see, it's like, if they're this mad about what they're saying, then they must be saying something good. It's like, nah. It's like I've sat down and I've watched many Ben Shapiro episodes, a lot of interviews and shit like that to see what he's saying. It's just like, well, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Like, it's
Right.
if you're trying to, well, that's the thing. They're not trying to have a conversation.
Right.
And I understand that some people don't want to have a conversation. Fine, go ahead and scream, but that's not gonna change anything. I kind of just view it from my own lens is that I can sit down with the white supremacists and we can have a conversation. I'm not gonna fight him. Not gonna stab him in the fucking neck. Da, 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 da. It's like he could, like, because of the fact that, like, I know that he would call me a nigga just to, like, try to get a rise out of me. I was like, hey, Peckerwood, like, just cut it up. It's like cracker. There's a lot of white um, terms but it's like, I understand that you're trying to use those words to incite something in me. Right. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of it. But of course, people will always look at it as like, you're just going to let him call you that and blah, 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 you a punk. Okay. I try to defend my masculinity, my manhood. I beat the shit out of him. Cops show up and shoot me. He goes away. He walks away. Ali's dead, but at least he stood up like a man. Don't get me wrong. There are times that you do need to stand up. But for a random white person calling me a nigga in the street, I'm not dying for that.
Yeah, it's not worth it. And you and I have had this conversation before, because for people who don't know, you've asked me a couple times to say it before because I think you're just screwing with me.
Oh, I was 100% just fucking with you.
And you love to see me squirm. And, you know, you've said it to me. It's just a word. It's just a word. And I think it's an interesting conversation to bring up with white people to see, like, when you ask them, why won't you say it? Their answers are very bizarre sometimes, or our answers are very bizarre sometimes. And I think, like, it shows you who's not doing it to be performative and who isn't doing it because they at least are trying to understand. And it's super interesting to bring up.
And I'll say this because it's interesting, because when you say that, it's like some people will, like, some of the reasons why some people will or won't say it. And one thing that I've heard is like, well, if this person grew up in the hood and everything like that, and that's why everyone speaks, they're going to speak like that. I'll give you just one example. I don't listen to a lot of his songs, but I don't think I've ever heard Eminem say nigga.
No, he won't say it.
And he grew up around poor white and black people. Probably grew up around white people that said it, but he didn't. So So you're saying that, oh, you grow up there and it's like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah. It's like, and fine, if you're white and you have a group of friends that say that don't care, so you can say it, da 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 da. And this is just to help you. This is to help non-black people. It's like not everyone's cool with it.
Right. Don't just assume because you have one black friend that said okay, that all black people are going to be okay with it.
It's like I wouldn't put a hands. I wouldn't touch you. I wouldn't put a hand on you. But I'm not the only one with hands in this world. So so you have to be cognizant of that.
Right. This obviously isn't the same thing, but like if you called me a bitch, depending on the context, I'm not going to do it. But it's just like a random person on the street or at the bar or something came up to me and got in my face and was yelling at me that I was a bitch.
Yeah.
So like, you can't just go around saying it to random girls. Like, it's obviously not the same thing.
You shouldn't be going around.
Example I try.
But,
that's the example I've tried to give because I've had conversations with some of my white friends before.
But it's not really because
word, why does it matter? It's not the same thing.
Women really weren't ever enslaved, and if you are kind of acting like a bitch, like.
Well, so it's not the same thing, but it's like the only thing I can ever come up with that they can have any type of
the underlying principle
that they can like attach themselves. Yeah. Like, how would you feel if a random person just came up and called you the C word? Which I'm not going to say because I don't want to get your YouTube taken down. You can't say that. You can't just go up to a girl and just say that. Okay. But if I said that, like, what would you do? Nothing. So it's just.
Yeah, it's a certain way of speaking within a group, and there are codes to what can and cannot be said within the group, and like someone, I'll say this: it is. I would argue that it's more hurtful. It would be more hurtful to a black person, like if the two black people talking, this is talking about the code. If I was just like, hey, what up, nigga? Like, did nothing. Or it's just like, you're acting like a nigga right now. They'd be like, taken back a little bit. But if I tell them you're acting like an Uncle Tom, they'll take more offense to that.
Interesting.
So there are codes of how you speak within the group.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can say I'm acting like that, and it's like, well, nah, but you call someone an Uncle Tom, yeah, it's over.
One of my favorite things. One of my favorite things that's happening now with like TikTok being so popular is usually white women, more so than white men, dancing to hip hop songs that are saying that word, and they like do this cutesy little and cover their mouth as like they'll be lip syncing to the song, and then that word will pop up, and they do this cutesy little like, why did you pick that song? Just don't do the song.
Because it's catchy. If it's the number one trending song, you're gonna do something for it. But that's where I get into it with people, because they'll think like, they'll say like, well, it's in a song, or well, I've talked to white people and black people about it, and black people, well, some black people say it's like, well, that's our word, and if that's how we want to talk, then yeah. It's like, okay. And then I'll ask them, it's just like, so if you have someone from Nigeria that comes over here and starts using the word nigga, or no, actually, no, over there, I saw it that like some people have used the word nigga.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this video is definitely getting taken down. I think I've said it more times than Django.
I tried to save you by not saying the C word, but yeah, no hope.
Boat's sinking. I'm going down with it. I'll just know for next time. Well, we'll see. But if they're over there saying nigga, who do you be mad at? Like, who is it that you should be mad at? Because they're black people. They're melanated in their skin. David Banner said this. It was like, it's on us. because we taught them the word nigga. They didn't know that word. They might have, some of them might have read like what was going on over here. It's like, but the way that we taught them how to use it, we educated the rest of the world about what it is. I think like hip hop and rap music is the biggest export of the United States.
That makes
So
sense.
to an extent, we control, to an extent, how the world sees us. To an extent. And I have to keep saying that because then people will be like, well, what about to an extent?
Right.
But yeah, because when I heard it, I was just like, hold on. Because I took a step back. I was just like, ooh, how do I feel about this? Because usually it's in the context of the United States where it's just like when you're, for most Black people that you're around, it's like we have a similar history, a similar experience that we have all shared. Sometimes it has manifested differently. It's like, but we have that cohesiveness, that thing that held us together. It's like, but and out of that word came. Over there, yes, like there are probably other words that they have over there that you don't call people.
Right.
Like I think in South Africa it's kafir. Kafir? Yeah, kafir. Kafer. I think that's kafir. And that's what they call South Africans. Well, yeah, Black South Africans, but that's the only South
I was
Africans.
going to say any South African or okay.
Black South Africans, but Black South Africans are South Africans. The other people are just colonizers.
What did you say earlier today? And then it made me think of Cornstarch Crusaders because I saw that last week and I thought that was the funniest thing.
We were going to call this chatting with the colonizer.
Honestly, part of me almost wishes we had just to see people's reactions.
Yeah, but that'd be way more clickbaity than.
Yeah.
And we don't even know if this is still going to be up. But
I mean, at this point,
we're almost 2 hours in, so we might as well just keep just going with it. Well, actually, hang on. Let's try something. I'm going to try to put a poll in the chat. And here we go.
I see the smirk, so I'm like, what are you typing right now?
I don't know if I type nigga, if it's gonna, you know what? All right, so there's a poll in the chat. And it's going, yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I put a poll in the chat. It's like, should Africans be able to say nigga? You have 5 people watching. Let's see what people say.
What people are going to say?
But yeah, so that's kind of the way that I look at it, is that like there are different words in every culture that, okay, one person said yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, how do I do this? Oh, okay. Well, sorry, 3 votes. 3 votes, 3 people said yes. There's 6 people watching. Let's see what the other 3 have to say. Don't worry, I can't see who
3
says.
people said yes.
Yeah. I can't see who says what, so don't worry about that.
Shuck.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I might be wrong. But I just think that if we are going to say a word is ours, then it's ours.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not. We are Africans, but we're Africans here in the United States, and we have a different history than other Africans that were stolen from the continent and brought to different places, and Africans that are still on the continent. We have we have a different history. So I think that if we're going to say to this country, this word is ours because of what it means to us, because of the history, because of all of this thing, then our argument falls apart when someone who just looks like us like uses it that doesn't share that history. Now, there might be a caveat. It's like, hey, like my parents immigrated here in the 70s, and like,
Sure.
So yeah, you've been educated in U.S. racism, so it might be that might be something. So yeah, so as of right now, okay, 3 people, but yeah, so everyone said, well, everyone that voted said yes.
Overwhelming yes. Very interesting.
So I would just have people who's ever listening think about that, and it's like if we're going to follow people like, well, no, Al Sharpton, what did he do? He ended up holding like a funeral for the word nigga. Like they had a casket. It was the most performative shit I've ever seen in my life. Yes, look it up. It was performative as a motherfucker. It was just, hang on.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was just really performative. But so if we're going to follow people that say like, this is our word because of the history of it, we're only allowed to revamp it. White people can't say it, non-Black people can't say it. It's like, it's like, okay, it's like, and if you're using the argument that that word has a history attached to it, and from that history, we have turned it into something else, then that same philosophy has to hold true for everyone who does not share that history. And those are people that are African.
Right. Can you still hear me, by the way? Because one of my AirPods just died.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can you still hear me? Because one of my AirPods just died.
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's my take on the N-word. I'll say it this time, the N-word.
I just can't get over the like cutesy. It's like trendy to like cover up your mouth at that. It's like, girl, that's not cute to anyone.
Well, yeah, they're probably.
Although I appreciate the sentiment. Please and thanks.
But we know what it is. We know what they're doing. Do you have any more questions?
Let's just do one more because otherwise my other AirPod's gonna die.
Wait, one died? Okay.
Yeah, just one died. I don't know why. I like heard it. Oh, this is a question I like to talk about with you always. Do you identify as a feminist, and how do you feel about feminism as a whole?
Do I identify as a feminist?
Mm-hmm.
No, I hate women. No, I don't identify as a feminist just because I understand who it was started by and why it was started. It was started by white women who had a problem with white men.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the rhetoric and sentiments that they use is like, women have been oppressed, women have been this. It's just like, and then when I hear Black women repeating those same sentiments, I'm just like, yeah, maybe the white man has oppressed you. It's like, but the only place where I can see it in like Black communities is definitely in the church. Heavily misogynistic in the church. But then again, you have to realize, where do we learn that religion from? Who do we get that religion from? When you live in the slave master's house long enough, you start picking up their habits. So and this is why I say Black people need to know their history. When you look at societies in Africa before colonization and before so colonization on the west part of Africa, on the east part of eastern and northern before the imperialism by Arab invaders. It was a very egalitarian society. Women had I would say equal protection and equal rights. Now, were some of them patriarchies? Yes, but even within the patriarchy, they had a matrilineal system. So it was male-led, but things were property, things like that were passed down through the mother.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of like the trade-off that they had with some places. Other places, in terms of like the Zulu, who were more of a war culture, it was heavily just patriarchic because they were always at war. Men had to be very aggressive, had to do a lot of other things. It's like, so it was a little bit more one-sided, but they still never lost respect for the woman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say it's that I don't identify as that, because I know our history, and they rebrand it and try to make it seem like, oh, we're so progressive. This is the most progressive thing in history. Women are making changes. We've been subjugated for since the beginning of time. White women have, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They always have looked at white women as just a vessel.
Right.
It's like, okay, that has historically not been the case for African countries. Have there been times that has happened? Yes. Have there been times that has happened outside of other invaders? Yes. But when you look at the history in its totality of African people, it is short spurts of that happening. And we need to understand that, because I think a lot of Black women are falling into the feminist trap, and now they're fighting with someone that initially they did not have a problem with.
Right.
So that's why I don't see myself as a feminist, because it's been it hasn't been inclusive to, and that's when I laugh at people and it's like, I'm an inclusive feminist. That literally means that you understand that there are other women besides white women. That's what an inclusive feminist is. Oh, there are Black women too. There are Asian women too. There are Hispanic women too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm including them as well. They get to be involved. Think how condescending that is. You get to be involved. Has made it interesting to try and date in the current. Yeah, feminism has made it interesting to try and date in the current climate. Yeah, 100%. I think it has. Feminism has switched up the dating game in the sense of its. I think with the feminist movement is that it has told women, it's like, you don't need a man. Yeah, you don't need a man to be a functioning person, to be an individual. It's like, I can agree with you on that. But if you want to start a family, unless you're going to spend $30,000, it's like, unless you want to raise your child in a conducive household,
or like, you're not heterosexual.
Excuse me?
Or if you're not heterosexual.
Yeah. I mean, okay. So my thing about that is that I think that gender roles and expectations. Okay, we'll get to that. With that, because I have a friend who she's on her way of getting married, and we were talking about her having kids, and I didn't bring it up to her at the time because it wasn't the right time for it. But I started thinking about is that, okay, whether it's a boy or a girl, it's like, I do believe that there needs to be a male figure like in that child's life, because you're raised by like, and this is a little bit more on the spiritual side of it, it's like you have both masculine and feminine energy. Like now the way that it is physically manifested might be one or the other, but like I guess like spiritually you have both of those energies inside of you. And if you're only taking cues from women, so say if they have a son, you're only taking cues from women. When you go out and interact with other men, you don't know how to interact. It's like you're going to move and shake in a way that is consistent with how women act. So I think that it's conducive. Like, I'm not saying bringing a third parent, be a, what do they call it, a throuple? But
like an uncle or some type of male figure, you're just saying, that's important and plays a role in their life.
Yeah, and same thing if it's a gay couple, have a woman that's like a, I don't want to say pseudo mother, but like that, like it's not going to take the role of a mother, but it's like that's the level of respect that that woman needs to have in order to be able to teach that child. Because if you have a gay couple and they have a daughter, how are two gay men going to teach their daughter about menstruating? They can read, they can educate themselves, but there's a practicality of it where it's just like, it's like I read a lot. I know a lot of information about that stuff, but if I was to ever have a daughter, I would defer that to the mother, because it's like y'all can go ahead and sync up and bleed together. I don't care. Like just.
Or if you ended up being a single dad, you would defer to one of your sisters or something like that. It's kind of like what you were saying, in my opinion, earlier, in an interracial couple. You can't go home and then explain to me an experience that you had. I might get it, but I don't really get it. You know what I mean? But if you go home to a Black girlfriend or wife that you're in a relationship with, you don't have to explain it to them. So it's like, it's kind of like that, in my opinion. So I totally agree. Because even if you were in an interracial couple, I'm not saying I think it's wrong, because I certainly don't. You would still want to have Black people in your life.
Yeah.
Like you still need that there for that shared experience and to have conversations with, and that's just important.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you bring that up, because I just thought about it, is that we've talked about this person. They have a daughter. She's Black. And she was worried because her daughter did not find not attractive, but like didn't find Black people or herself like attractive or beautiful or cute. And it's just like, yeah,
that's so sad.
She's around nothing but white people, rich white people. Like, so.
And there's only so many books you can give her.
Yeah.
Or like little movies that you can put on. There's like one Disney movie with a Black princess, and she's not even a princess.
Wait, which one?
I think she becomes a princess. The Princess and the Frog, but she's not a princess in the beginning.
Oh, it's a Rag to Riches story?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Oh, you've never seen it? It's a cute movie, actually.
I might watch it.
It's cute, and it's actually kind of funny because like her best friend is this like really dumb Southern belle white girl, and I think it's hilarious.
That's pretty good.
I'm like, I see you, Disney. I get it.
Okay, so let's get to No Name real quick. Gender roles and expectation in terms of feminism and as it relates to the dating climate. Yeah, I think with like the gender roles and things like that, I think that, and here's the interesting thing, is that from a scientist, from an educational standpoint, is that I think if you have gender roles that keep people out of certain things, like they're 50% of the population, you're cutting off one of your legs, essentially. Now, I think that with the feminist movement, it's like, well, you don't have to stay in the kitchen. You don't have to be a stay-at-home mom. The problem is that when you do have women that elect to do that, they're shunned and like kind of talked about by feminists. It's just like, oh well, you're staying in the kid. You just let him. It's like, I'm happy. If you want to go out there and burn bras and shit, that's on you. But I'm happy. Like I've explained.
It's supposed to be that you have a choice.
Yeah, like
that's supposed to be the core of it. Is you can choose what you want to do. You're not forced into that role. And if that's the role that you choose to do because you love it, and that's where your heart is, or that's just where it made sense for your family, that's what happened to my mom, then great.
Yes, so I can agree with that. Where it gets fucked up is that because they wanted to completely abolish and dismantle gender roles. Gender roles, to an extent, have a biological component to it. If men are seen as more assertive, aggressive, leadership, like part of that stems from the fact that we produce testosterone at much higher levels than women do.
Right.
Women are more submissive, agreeable, cooperative, emotional, because of the fact that you produce more estrogen than us men. You start giving a guy excess estrogen, you might come home one day and he's curled up eating ice cream watching a Lifetime movie. Like it's
okay, John Tucker.
Like, but that's the thing, is that there's a component to it. So when you're trying to then, and I don't even think it's getting rid of gender roles per se. I think it's more so is that they want to dismantle what it means to be a woman and backdoor their way into trying to be like men. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm a boss bitch, I'm aggressive. Like, okay, it's like, fine, do that. You're going to be alone. Because most men are not going to want to come home and fight. There's no right. like if I'm the breadwinner in the family, it's like there's no reason why my life should be more stressful than putting food on the table, providing a house, paying bills. If you're trying to be the independent boss bitch like woman, I come home and you just want to like fight and not be agreeable or anything. It's like, I'm gonna find someone who will. And you can have you can do everything like else, but there are certain expectations that guys do have when they do marry someone. Mm-hmm. It's like if I have to keep coming home every day and cook my own meals, do everything, like I might as well just stay by myself and have a smaller apartment. I think it's a division of labor that like women don't want to have a conversation about.
That's assuming that you're the breadwinner, though, that you're coming home and are the breadwinner. So here's where I disagree.
Okay.
So I will never disagree with you on the fact that there are women who go over the top. I think just like any movement, there are people who do not do a good job representing, or there are like a pocket of people who are extreme. I think the media has done a phenomenal job at misdirecting what the feminist movement started as. If we can just, for the sake of this conversation, take the racial piece and put it to the side, because that in and of itself is its own issue and like needs to be discussed. But if we could just pocket that to the side for a second, for what the feminist movement started, like I think a lot of people forget, like my mom was in her 20s when she was able to open a credit card. Like this was not that long ago that a lot of these things were not allowed for women in the United States. And I think that's how feminism started, is let's fight to take care of ourselves without needing a man, especially if like you're a single mom and you're struggling buying property, things like that. Let's try to minimize the wage gap.
And this is probably going to be tone deaf, but women control women control who they have a kid with. And if you're unless the father passed away unexpectedly,
I was
it's
gonna
like,
say, what if he died?
yeah, unless he passed away unexpectedly, I understand. It's like, but if you're a single mother, like you chose to make a baby with that guy before knowing if this shit was even going to work out.
What if you were married and then you got divorced though?
Should have been a better wife. I'm kidding.
Oh my God. So
But that's the thing. It's like most people rush into it and don't actually get into the nitty gritty of and talk about expectations. Because if I'm expecting something from a wife and it's not known to her, or if she's saying that like these are things I'm not going to do, but they're the things that I want, we shouldn't have gotten married in the first damn place.
Right. I mean, too many people get married that haven't had important conversations. I mean, we can see that from the divorce rate, obviously.
Yeah, because people
but
think
I think that the media has.
They think it's only
what?
Love. Like marrying someone is solely based in I love them. It's like no, there is a sense of practicality that comes into it. Love is great; it's an additive, but you have arranged marriages that have lower divorce rates than here. And yes, part of that is culturally, but even with some places, because there are some arranged marriages that go on here where they brought the culture over here and you can get divorced, but it's like we're going to work it out. Like if the guy's not doing the thing that he needs to do, I would say guys need to do some self-improvement and everything like that and figure out how to be a better husband. But it seems like you want to talk about, well, not you, but when the conversation comes up about it, it's like, how can men be better? No, but once we bring up how can women be better, it's like, why are you trying to control? No, if you want it to be a 50-50, the criticism goes back and forth. But if you only want to criticize me, then it's not going to be equal relationship.
No, I totally agree with that. And the criticism should go both ways, especially if you want equality. Like if you want to be treated equally, then you need to be able to accept criticism and take it. I think what gets frustrating for a lot of women is we're trying to make a comment or an argument for something, and it just gets turned back around on, well, women do this. Like, that's not what I'm talking about right now. What I think is really interesting, so this is what I was saying about, like, I think the media has done a really good job at painting a portrayal of a stereotypical, crazy, angry, man-hating feminist, and has done a really good job brainwashing women too. Because I used to think this growing up. Actually, when I was a teenager, I used to actively say I wouldn't want a female president. Actively used to say that to my parents. And my dad used to be like, I've done a terrible job raising you then. And it like took me some time to kind of like unpack that. But if you look up the most common Google searched questions about feminism and the most common Google search questions about the Black Lives Matter movement, it is scary how similar some of the questions are. And I think it's because of the media. So like one of the top questions Googled about feminism is, why are feminists so angry? And there's a similar question for the Black Lives Matter movement. Do feminists hate men? Do Black people hate white people? It's like, or do Black Lives Matter movement protesters hate white people? It's like, I just think the media has done a really phenomenal job of flipping the script and making feminists seem like there's something when it's definitely a pocket of women, and those women need to be addressed and spoken to and calmed the fuck down. But I just hate that it's the center of the conversation every time I bring up feminism.
And I understand that, and I won't talk about the crazy man-hating feminists. What I will talk about though is that within the feminism movement is that what I have seen from talking to not the extremists but the moderate is that women want the perks of like the perks of equality and everything like that without the accountability and the responsibility of it. So
what makes you say that?
Because so the whole thing about the wage gap, I've looked into it. It's like when you account for different things, it's like and this is my helpful critique to the feminist movement. It's like, if you keep doing the wage gap, people are going to keep bringing up the data and you're going to start losing the argument. What you should be asking, because I've had to examine this and look at it too, is that why are women, for the most part, like not in these roles? Is it because, and I personally think it's because of education. Because if
Mhm.
I never saw Black people as scientists, as heart surgeons, as things like that, I wouldn't have believed that I could do it. Quick story is that when I was in fourth grade, we had to do a book report on inventors. I told my teacher I wanted to do a book report on a Black inventor. She told me there are no books about Black inventors. Fortunate that I had my dad, and he almost gave me scoliosis the next day because of how many books he made me bring to school. And it's just like,
Oh my
hey,
God, your dad.
this is what it is. Um, so I think that similarly, it's the thing with women, especially in STEM. You do not see that many women celebrated in STEM.
Right.
And I forget her name. I always forget her name, but and this is part of the problem. But everyone knows Watson and Crick as the people that found out about DNA, the structure of DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Their research was based on the research that a woman was doing on X-rays and radiology. She much came up with the method of trying to picture things using X-rays, and then they took that and applied it to what they were doing. You never hear about her.
No.
Even people that have heard about her forget her name, but they know that it was a woman. But that's what I'm saying is that, like, I think for the feminist movement, it would be more beneficial to look at the root cause of it is that, hey, like, yes, young girls are not seeing themselves in STEM. Does it mean overcorrection of just taking men out of it? No, but show where women fit into the bigger narrative of history. And that changes it. That's the same thing that I say to my brothers and sisters well, a lot of history has been rewritten in our case, but in the history that hasn't been rewritten, we've just been omitted out of. It's like the scholar Dr. John Clark, he got on his path of being a scholar because when he was young, he was looking at world history, he was reading about world history and wasn't seeing any Black people in it. So he went on the path of like where our people weren't. He went and found where we were. So that, and from learning about that is like, and learning about the first physician was a Black person, Imhotep. The first female physician, I see her name. It starts with a D. It was another Egyptian. She was the first female physician. There were a whole host of things that we were the first to do, so that when I was tutoring a kid in fourth grade and he said, oh, well, and ironically enough, his name was Pharaoh. And he said like, oh, I just can't do this. I'm not good at math. I was like, do you know what your name means? It's like, yeah, it was the kings in Egypt. I was like, and do you know who invented math? Egyptians. They educated the rest of the world. So you can do it. You've already done it. You just need to do it again.
Right.
And just from me talking to him like that, his grades steadily started to improve. He started to click a little bit more because he had the confidence of, I can do this versus I hope I can do this.
Right. I agree. I think it's showing women what they can do. And I think sometimes it's hard. Like you get kind of in this like cycle. If you see what your moms are doing and it's limited to, I'm trying to come up with stereotypical female jobs, nurse, librarian, teacher, secretary, exactly, like admin type roles, things like that. Then you don't even know like what's possible sometimes. Like I like straight up didn't know what to do. I loved nutrition, which is why I wanted to be a dietitian. But like when that fell through, I was like, I like actually don't even know what jobs are out there. And I fell into human resources, which is also a stereotypical female field. They're the only men in HR at my company, aside from I think two people, we have a huge HR department, are in recruiting or in payroll. which is like a finance and a sales job within human resources.
Mhm.
Very stereotypical. So I totally agree. You need to kind of show what's possible.
Two things. Okay, no name said, but women shame other women who want to continue to operate in the traditional gender roles. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
OG Baby Daddy said, great point, Becky, on how the narrative from the news can influence how we stereotype feminism and feminists and feminism.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't disagree with you on that, but I'm just saying is that I think the large, like, and yes, I think a large amount of people have an archetype of a feminist.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, it's just like, those are people that lack critical thinking. Be straight up, those are people that lack critical
thinking. Say it for what it is.
Yeah. Like, but then say if you do away with that, I think that there's an issue that is more pervasive through like within the feminist movement, because it was essentially women fighting to kind of like, yes, equality, but the way that they were doing it, it was like, oh, I want to be a boss. I want to be this. I want to be the CEO, and never stop to really examine what does because we know what a male boss looks like.
Mm-hmm.
What does a female boss look like?
Right.
But far as I know, they never really had that conversation and hammered that out. So when you see CEOs that are women, they act like men. And then when they ask like, well, why doesn't any man want to date me? It's like, because the outside is a female, but when I start talking to you and everything else like that, it's like I'm talking to another dude.
Right. And that's such a good point. I totally agree with that. Like, you can still be feminine. You can still, quote unquote, act like a woman and run shit. Like, you don't have to act like a man. I think some women probably would argue in order to get there, they had to do that. But then that was your choice, right? Like, that you knew what you were doing. You resigned to, I'm going to act like a guy to claw my way to the top. And that's fine if that's what you wanted to do. But I do think that's such a good point. I think it's so interesting that we don't talk about, like, what does it look like to be equal, but still be feminine and still be a woman? Yeah. Because it looks different, in my opinion. What always cracks me up, and this is where I sometimes get frustrated with like some of my friends, is, you know, feminism, equality, blah, blah, blah. But then they'll make a comment like, but he didn't hold the door open for me. He didn't pay for dinner. And that's the type of shit I can't stand. I'm like, what? What?
Yeah, chivalry is dead and women killed it.
Right. I'm like, you wanted to be equal, but you still wanted to be treated like courted.
Now, do you see where the accountability and responsibility comes in? Is that that's a small microcosm of it, but it's other things there. Oh, we have a friend.
Callie's joining the podcast. Hi, sweetie.
What's up, Callie? So there's two terms that I just want to touch upon, and then it's been almost 2.5 hours. It's a great talk.
I know. Chris just left for his hockey game.
Two terms. One, because I was listening to Kevin Samuels actually talk about this either last night or a couple of days ago, is that he used the term assertive feminist. Is assertive femininity. Mm-hmm. So, and this is in the context of high value men, is that most women just think that, oh, well, a guy should just approach me and I need to, like, I want a high value man, but he needs to approach me. You know, the ones that are the women that are getting those high value men are the ones that are feminine, beautiful, and inspirational, but assertive. They're going to get it, because if you're just waiting for a Prince Charming on some Disney shit to sweep you off your feet and take you to his castle, that's not gonna cut it. You can still be assertive and feminine. And the other thing that I wanted to, and it's the concept of conditional, being conditionally feminine, where it's just like women will say, it's like, oh, I can be feminine, if the right guy comes along.
Yeah.
Flip that. If I say to a woman, I can be masculine if the right woman comes along. They'll look at me like I'm out of my rabbit ass mind. It's like that makes no sense.
Yep.
So
that's where we can agree. Isn't it nice to end the podcast agreeing on something?
We agree on a lot. I think it's just because
I know we do.
When you hear me say it, because it's coming out of my mouth, you need to be the contrarian.
No, it's because sometimes it pisses me off that you have to start the argument that way. Like you have to focus on the minority of people that you know is going to get under my skin just to have the conversation, even though you know that we agree. It's like you just have to say it.
Yeah, shock that. It's shock therapy. I needed to shock you so you start listening. If I'm just, oh, well, hey, Becky, no, shock that. It's good. You've learned a lot through it.
This is the basis of our friendship, I think.
Yeah.
Is you saying something, me getting mad, you waiting until I calm down, and then we have a conversation.
Yeah, but even though you're getting mad, you're still listening because of that. Like, if I was very nonchalant, it's just like, well, have you thought about it like this? It's just like, nah, fuck that. Feminism was started by white women that don't give a shit about black women. You're just like, it's like, yeah.
And I listen because I respect your opinion, even though you piss me off.
Yeah, well, it happens. What are you going to do about it? I'm not changing. But yeah, it's been 2.5 hours. Debating whether or not I'm going to cut this up. I might not. Who knows? If this doesn't get taken down, we will see. Everyone who I guess there's 2 people here, but anyone that listens to this, if it's not taken down, drop a comment. Let me know if you want some more of these. I think I've decided I am going to call this Tomb Thoughts because I'm sitting up here just talking shit. And yeah, I'll go ahead and do the classic YouTube outro. Subscribe, hit that like button, hit the bell so you get that notification. The link is down below. But it was a great conversation, and I'll definitely talk to you later.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, how the fuck do I end this? Don't worry, I'm going to edit this part out of the video.
Best outro. How the fuck do I edit this?
You know what? I'm just going to end the Zoom meeting.
Bye.
Bye.